So let me start that first, Bill.
No, I don't have either.
All right.
So good morning. Good morning, everybody. I just want to welcome all of you to this webinar, on behalf of the governor and the School Facilities Commission, I want to thank you for everything that you do every day for our educational system and for participating in this important webinar. My hope is that this format works for you. I'm getting a little feedback, so they're looking around. But I hope this format works for you, and I know that we're going to not just do one of these, but there's another one that's coming up a little bit later, and certainly the staff will talk to you about that. And I understand from the agenda that you guys today will go over this process, the template for facility planning, and they wanted me to make a couple of comments about what we're starting to see in the legislative session, and so I wanted to take a minute to do that. Is that all right, Troy? You know, one of the things that the current legislature is looking at this session, and certainly the governor is looking at this session, is the energy economy and how it relates to education funding in general. And certainly a large part of that conversation is the funding from the energy economy that's available for the physical planning and development of public schools in our state. And there are a lot of questions that are being asked and answered. We're working a lot here, late hours and through weekends, to make sure that we provide those answers to the legislature and to the administration as they come up through the session. And I don't know if every school district received this. They probably should have. We recently completed a study with the University of Wyoming to actually map out what our expenditures and revenues currently look like, not just this biennium, but next biennium and future biennium. And with the use of some really, I think, talented people at the University of Wyoming and our staff here, we were able to create algorithms that gave us the ability to actually project out, provided that the program stays as it is today, what it would look like in terms of expenditure and revenue in the next biennium and the future biennium. And one of the things that came out of that study was this sort of awareness that that at a state level we are moving from what we call capitalization to asset preservation. And that doesn't happen this biennium or next biennium, but after that, it really starts to look like, at least based on the current program, that we move from a capitalized economic condition or capitalization into what we're calling asset preservation, and over time. And that means that the program just changes fundamentally, and so we'll talk more about that through this next year and through the next biennium. You'll hear a lot about that as we go forward, both in this legislative session and the next one, and certainly as we prepare for the next biennial budget, which we'll be doing this spring. We'll have more conversations about this. If there's ever an opportunity, or if your school district or your school board or your administration would like to talk more about this in some detail, we can always come up and see you. Come to wherever you are and have a conversation about where we're going strategically here in the state of Wyoming, where the legislature is moving, and where the governor is moving with them as it relates certainly to funding for our physical planning and development of our school system. So with that, I'm gonna I just wanted to introduce that concept, but more importantly, I wanted to thank the staff here and thank all of you. The staff for putting this webinar together, and I think there'll be another one that folks can participate in, and then certainly there'll be visits, I think, to each of the school districts. Either they'll come here, or we'll be there, or we'll be doing it electronically, digitally, but there'll be visits about these facility plans. They're so important because they do articulate the future of the school district in terms of its buildings, in terms of its physical planning and development, and so they're very important, not just for the school districts and the school boards, but for us here in the School Facilities Department and the Commission as well. So I want to thank you and the staff for putting all this together, and I wish you luck today. Thanks, Troy.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
So one of the first thing we want to do is introduce ourselves on this end. And go ahead and start down here. But we'll introduce ourselves in our conference room here. Make sure you know who at SFD is attending.
Tony Mina, assistant.
Stanley Hobbs, School Facilities Department. Good morning, everyone.
And Troy Decker, Planning Coordinator for the School Facilities Department.
Mike Pockle, planning coordinator.
We also have Lauren Fodor. She had to step out for just a moment. She'll rejoin us. She's the Deputy Director. All right, I think what we're going to do then is we really have a mixture of I just introduced you, Lauren.
Oh, sorry.
We really have a mixture of personnel within the state of Wyoming, new to the state, been here maybe a year or two, clear up to probably 20 plus years. And so really the balance of this webinar is to, I think my temptation is to go faster than I should, and I'm actually going to purposely slow down today and make sure that we do a really good job at explaining what we're doing. This is an important budget coming up. It's a biennium budget. It's a full budget. We want to make sure that we honor everyone no matter how long you've been in the state. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. AIM database, when you log in, there are going to be multiple things we're going to talk about today and look at, but one of the resources is the AIM database. Obviously, that's our main resource. Another one that I want you to be aware of is our School Facilities Department website, and so we're going to be on there, and I'm going to show you some resources there. We do hear some talking in the background. Someone out there, just to let you know, if you want to mute your mic until you're ready to talk, that'd be great. So, let me ask you on the district end, if you're on the webinar here, if you could mute and then unmute it when you're ready to talk.
Because the way it works, it gets off shoulder, probably not going to work at all.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started then. One of the important things in the AIM database itself, as you go in there, let me go to it, on the work desk is your district facility plan report. Some of you may not have as many reports as this, but it's called District Facility Plan, RE stands for report. When you click in there, there is an ability, you just leave the status as it is, and your district, if you're new to Wyoming as a superintendent, business manager, facilities manager, we basically have facility planning clear down back to 2011. So each district right now has a 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15. Obviously, this year we have facility planning 2015. Ed Getz has been gracious to let me use him as a guinea pig each year to demonstrate what we have in there, and I'm going to use his today as our template. So in your 2015 facility plan, we have multiple documents in here. Some are to be checked out, some are not. So that's how you actually get to some of these documents. So back to the template itself. When you open that template, if I look in here, we could open Ed's template here, and it's right on here. And if you check on the related document number, you can just view it. If you want to check it out, you can actually go through this project number. It'll show these again, and you can actually check out the document. We have instructions. So in here, we do have instructions for you to follow, a step-by-step instructions. And so each of you will be able to view those as well on the instructions. And right here are the instructions. So you have step-by-step instructions for each thing you need to do in facility planning. So once you open this facility plan, your districts, we've already chosen yours and actually have your name up. But let's say it's Bighorn 1 or Albany 1. You just click that, it's there. So one of the challenges we've had in the past on this is this was created in Microsoft 2007. Some of you may have Microsoft 2010. You may be using a Mac. And in the past, you know, this is a form that you can click, check boxes and stuff like that. If you are having difficulties with Microsoft 2007 version, please, if you got a Mac, if you got 2010, whatever, please just give Tony here, it's John Mina 2 at wyo.gov, and here's his number. He goes by Tony in the office. Give Tony a call, email him, and he'll provide you a customized version for this that will work for you to the best of his ability. So, and what he'll do is he'll check out your document, he'll customize it, and then he'll place it back in there for you to use. So please do that, and he'll be more than happy to help you. One of the things that we want to just point out each year, and I want to read this verbatim because I think it's such an important part, and maybe you could call it the fine print of facility planning, but each district's vision of facility needs and remedies is representative of a point in time and is not a guarantee of any specific scope or future funding. Project development requires consideration of non-construction alternatives, WDE and SFD consideration of request configuration changes, and all other criteria is required by state statute. Commission approval of any facility plan is an acknowledgement of potential remedies, and if requested in a budget, will require final approval by the legislature and governor if they are to move forward as an officially approved project. So, and I say that because we do have new people in the state, and we want you to make sure that we understand this is a vision of facility planning. This is going to help us obtain a vision for each and every school district, all 48. But all those visions have to be compared to now security. Is a big thing coming down the pike financially in this state. We have capacity needs, we have condition needs, we have component requests, we have major maintenance, of course, off of calculation. So all of these things have to be balanced within a budget. So one of the first things we want to make sure that everybody understands is this is a vision. We're going to look at all 48, and we're going to put together in June, based on these specific criteria, a proposed budget.
Hello, my name is Ed Gutz, and I'm with Albany County School District in Laramie. I was interested in making a reservation for the evening of February 8th.
Thank you for asking that. We're actually going to do scheduling differently this year, and we're going to get to that.
Thinking, 5:30.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
18.
He's talking about something else.
He must be talking about something else. Okay. All right, we'll move on. I think he must be talking about
School District.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody at the moment. And you should still be able to hear me. I've got everybody muted so that we don't have inadvertent postponements of our training. If you want to talk, please raise your hand. Jerry, right now your hand is raised. If you could unraise that. If you want to talk after each one, I'll look for raised hands, and then I'll unmute you per raised hand on your dashboard there. So with that, let's continue. District, one of the most important things we can do here is make sure that you get the proper training to accomplish the state required statutes and requirements for facility planning for your district. And so one of the first things we're going to ask you to do is, yes, you've attended this, great. You can just click yes, or if you didn't watch the video, we are going to provide this video to everybody as a link following these today. And we do need everybody to either attend an actual webinar training or watch the video, so that's one of the things. There's also the fact that when we schedule you a month in advance, some of you have already been scheduled for February, and we'll talk about that, but we're going to contact you a month in advance, and we're going to actually go through your facility plan and go through this template and talk about things and make sure that we're all on the same page. So here, for instance, if it's Michael Pockle in the office, he's going to contact you about 4 weeks in advance. So down here, let's say, for instance, and I'm just making it up, but let's say we're going to meet with Albany 1 on the 19th of February, which isn't true, but we'll pretend that. 2 weeks before that, that time, basically, is when we want your documents in. And so we would go 2 weeks prior to that. We'd say, hey, Ed, we're kind of walking through this. We need your documents and everything in line by the 5th of February. And then whenever our person contacts you, let's say they contacted you tomorrow, they would do that. It would be Michael Pockel. This is basically a running list of notes. We're going to check this document out, and we're going to check it back into AIM. Check it out and check it in. One of the good things about AIM is it can track changes. And so each time you check it out, it knows who checked it out, what you did when you put it back in, same with us. So Michael Pock would do that, and let's say that he talked to Ed Getz. I'm probably going to misspell it.
It's easy.
And so he would put Ed, I talked to him on the 16th, and he's going to walk through this and make sure you don't have any questions. One of the things that we did this year specifically is there is the ability to for the district to have its own notes separate from SFD. So in past years, we've had all the notes kind of integrated into a single note section. Then we start breaking it up a little bit last year. This year, every section has its own place for notes. So the district can go ahead and write its notes, type its notes. We can type our notes as we go along. And then, of course, let's say that it was 19th, and usually Albany One comes over in person. So what I'm going to do here from here is that's just the very beginning introduction. Does anybody have any questions? Please raise your hand on your dashboard, and I'll be more than happy to unmute you and take your question. Okay, I don't see any raised hands, so we're going to go ahead and continue on. So obviously we'll have you fill out who's going to be in your attendance when you come and do your facility planning, who's going to attend the meeting, who's actually prepared the documents as well. Over here we've put a specific group of people that are going to be at hopefully every single one of these. We do have Lauren Fodor. We'll put her down here as Deputy Director. She should be able to attend the majority of them, maybe not all of them, but the majority of them. And then, of course, we've asked your project manager to invited them to all these and are hoping that they can attend each one. So that's this portion of who attended. And then this is basically our marching orders for our agenda today in training, and it is also during our facility plan. You'll see where this is a step-by-step process, very specific for each one of these elements down below. And then also, let me kind of reduce that just a little so we can see it. Basically down below we have specifics for this. So let me start first of all that we are in the district facility plan template. It is a summary of your vision and state provided information as well. It records basically a bird's eye view, 20,000 feet, without going into AIM database and all that stuff. But in preparation of this, you'll be doing many things in AIM, but as a summary of our meeting, this is the summary. And if you read these, the quality of how we do on this summary will really help clarify your vision and the state's priorities as well as we move forward. So that's this template that we're working on. Notice that we've done a couple things this year. This is the task. You're going to check this out. Notice that what the district needs to do. We've actually given you a very quick summary of what you need to do. You will need to check out this document. You will need to fill it out and then check it back in. And then, like we said, we're going to walk through it about a month in advance, and then 2 weeks in advance we're going to come back through and we're going to actually go through all your documents that are checked in. We've got our team. This is a great combination this year. We've got a team of people working on this from SFD. There's Stan Hobbs, of course, our administrator for planning. We have Tony, who's going to be looking at your 1 and 2 conditions, all the spreadsheets you check out. Tony's going to be looking at those and reviewing those prior to our facility plan meeting. We've got Michael Pockel and Janet Garrison, who are going to be calling you and working with you as an individual, one-on-one with one of your representatives, whoever is going to be leading up your facility planning. And so, so that's kind of where we are as a team here and how we're going to divide our responsibilities to help you as best as possible. The next one I'm going to offer you guys to open up for any questions here in just a moment. I don't see any hands raised yet. Major maintenance balance is the next thing. When you go into your facility plan, there is a spreadsheet called Major Maintenance Balances. You're actually going to check this out. I'm not going to check it out today, but the instructions show you. All I'm going to do is view it. But this is Albany 1 Major Maintenance, and I'm going to go ahead and open that up. It might take a moment. And you know, it's Albany 1. And basically, this is your, we need to know your major maintenance balance as of probably your last bank statement prior to your facility plan meeting. So if we're meeting you in April, you know, maybe the March or February balance will be great. So anyway, here you would just say, let's say that it was a balance as of to 28/15. And it'll put February 2015 for you. And then all you do is put your cash account balance and then your WGIF balance as well, your certificate of deposit balance, and then any encumbrances. We have defined encumbrances just as they should be. Encumbrances are those funds that are contractually obligated. We do not want anything in the encumbrances that is not contractually obligated. We'll catch those, your vision for major maintenance in a different fashion than this. So that encumbrances then would be out of here. And then, so for instance, let's say you had, who knows, I'm just making it up, $1 million, we had 100,000, 10,000, 100,000 investments, let's say another 100,000 in that, encumbrances, let's say you had 50,000, then this will automatically go ahead and give you a balance. This balance then, and then you'll check this back in. So check it out, fill it in, get whatever you need, check it back in. This amount here, then, I'm going to go ahead and close that. So that's 250,000. Let's pretend. That balance then would go right back over here. So down below, transfer the net balance from your major maintenance account balance spreadsheet in your AIM 2015 facility plan, round to the nearest dollar. So you would put your 250,000 right here. Okay, it's that simple. And then the next thing we're going to ask, and I'll open it up for questions here in just a moment, all completed major maintenance work orders are closed out in AIM. So one of the things that we try to do is housekeeping. So when your projects are done for major maintenance and they need to be closed out, that's what we want, is you to close them out. So you can, once you do that, and I'll show you how to do that, you can say completed, got it done, or you can actually run a report and have send it to Tony, and Tony can close them out for you. The district can say, hey, I sent the report to such and such, and then Tony down here will say on such and such date, you know, closed out requested projects, something like that. So this is he will take, if you send something to him, he will note it. He will designate that he accomplished it on such and such date. If he needs to get back to you and ask some questions, he will. So again, this is how kind of our notes section is working on this, and so hopefully that will help you. One of the things I wanted to show you before I open it up for questions in AIM itself, probably have to get out of that, huh? Yeah. Is we're going to go ahead and look at our report for, I think it's this one, right, for major maintenance. So for instance, Albany 1, we're talking about your major maintenance and which ones are open and which ones are closed. So let's go, for instance, you can run them all if you want. Let's go all buildings for a second. Here, and we have this in the directions as well, we're looking at major maintenance, project type major maintenance, and then let's just say we want to run it for today. We can run this report, and it will show you all your major maintenance clear back to 04, okay? And what you can do is, if you want, you can certainly skip, in this case there are 20 pages, we'll just skip to the back for a second. You can see it toward the back here in 2015 that Ed still has statuses open on major maintenance work orders and projects. So what we want you to do is we want you to go through and go ahead and close out. So for instance, let's say that Ed did have this. I could click into it. I could hit edit. I'm not going to do it, but I'll show you. I could hit this, and I could actually then hit closed and close this. I'll not do that though. So that's how you can actually close out manually each of your each of your projects. Close out for a moment. Now, the other advantage to this is these reports is you can actually export data. And so if you want to, you can export data. If you just have today here, if you'll open this up and drop it to this different number, you'll see it'll create a bunch of other columns. You can transport that over. It'll transport it in, or I don't want to say export it into a CSV, and you can say OK. And then what it'll do is, the great thing about AIM is it'll export this data into a spreadsheet for you. And then the nice thing, you know, we were talking about statuses. The nice thing then in Excel is you can go ahead and go to data, you can put a filter on, and let's say that I only want to see all my open projects only. I don't want to see the rest. So now this makes it really easy for Ed because he has all these open projects. If you want, of course, you can go ahead and expand this. So that you can see all the details. Here's my here's basically what we're doing. Here's the planned work order. It'll show you the name of the building and the status and stuff like that. So you can actually go in. Now, one of the advantages of this, and this is how I do it if I was just trying to be simple, is let's say that you want to shut out certain ones and you have 25 and you want Tony to do it for you. No big deal, if I can see my home. No big deal then. We can go ahead and do those. Maybe I could do a format painter, and then you could go ahead and highlight those that you want him to close out. This is just a suggestion. Maybe you have a better suggestion. This is fine. And then you can send this to him and say, Tony, everything highlighted yellow, I want closed out. Please do that. He will do it. He will let you know when he's done with it. And then we'll get that accomplished. So you can do it both ways. If you have lots to review, you can have him close it out instead of you individually. I'm going to go ahead and shut that out. So with that, I'm looking at the dashboard. Please raise your hand if you have any question at this point. We'll just wait a moment. If I see any raised hands on your dashboard, we'll go ahead and entertain any questions at this point. We did have George Galida from SFD just join us here as well, so we wanted to let you guys know that he came in to be a part of this webinar as well. He heads up our design and construction for our department. Okay, I do not see any raised hands, so I'm going to go ahead and move on with training. Okay, District 1 and 2 scores. So one of the things that we have within your, did you have any comments, Stan? Okay, our staff will speak up when if they have something to say. One of the things that we'll need to look at then, that you need to look at when you go to your facility plan, and again we'll go back into Albany, 2015. And within that, there are 1 and 2 score spreadsheet in the majority of districts. There are 3 districts that we do not have a 1 or 2 score sheet in there. They are Park 16, Meeteetse, we've got Fremont 24, Shoshone, and then because they're getting a brand new building, of course, replaced, and then Bighorn 1. So those are the 3 districts that do not have any 1s or 2s. Now, some of you may have maybe you don't have 1s or 2s anymore because you've taken care of them. So what we need you to do is we'd have you actually check this out through the normal way. I am only going to view it. And on the 1 and 2 score sheet, it's important for us basically to get an update on your 1s and 2s and how you're addressing those 1s and 2s. So we're going to open up Albany here. And we've got it in a spreadsheet, and only Albany is represented within this. Now, each of your districts last year had responses, yes or no, and those are the responses we want, yes or no. You know, planning or whatever. You may be planning it, but we just want to know, yes, it's taken care of, or no, it's not taken care of. And so state law requires us to take care of the major conditions. Condition issues within your buildings. So you'll go down through this and you'll update it. So for instance, maybe, you know, Ed here was talking about, yes, or no, I haven't taken care of this roof coverings issues at the administration building, but I have a project planned in July 2015. But let's say, for instance, that Ed decided to take care of that earlier, and now it is. Then he could basically say project completed fall 2014 because it was a greater need. And so that's what we want you to do. Go through, update it, give explanations of yes or no if it has or hasn't been addressed. Again, Tony here in the office will go through each of these. He'll look at it if you have any questions, not clear. I really liked Ed's way he did this last year, and I know a lot of districts did. You basically not only said, no, it's not here, but you give us an anticipated date you're going to do it and an actual planned work order number that correlates to your objective. And so we really appreciate this, and this is a good, I think this is a good example of how you can communicate where you're at or how you intend to address something. So that's the 1 and 2 score sheet, and then you'll check it back in. And so check out that, check it, do it, check it back in, and when completed, you can check completed. Or there's 3 districts. Maybe there's more than that. I think there are some other districts that, district doesn't have any 1 or 2 scores. I'm kind of thinking potentially of Washakie or something like that, and the district say, hey, we don't have any. We did, but we don't. And on the spreadsheet, you can check it out and say, yes, we've taken care of it, and then
remedied all 1s and 2s.
Yeah. District has remedied all 1s and 2s, or we demoed the pool, and now those 1s or 2s are gone, or something like that. We can take notes as well. So back to the dashboard. I want to offer. I'm looking at the dashboard. Please raise your hand if you have any questions on 1 and 2 scores and how to check that out, check it back in, and take care of it. Okay, I do not see any raised hands, so I will go on. PE spaces this year. Let me go up to PE spaces for a moment. So one of the things that in the new adequacy standards is that we have smaller schools out there who have PE spaces like gymnasiums, and maybe that gymnasium can hold who knows, 100 students, but there's 130 students in the building. So we recognize when it comes to a smaller building that it really wouldn't be an accurate representation to say that 100 students would be in there for PE in one period. And so basically what it is then is secondary schools with less than 300 students are to be determined for capacity separately in the facility planning process with SFD. And so down here on your 1s and 2s, on your PE spaces, then you say district either has no PE spaces in secondary schools less than 300 students. You don't have that size school, or you do. And basically, then you would check this out. And so let me show you that spreadsheet real quick because it's right here. Albany 1 PE under 300 students. I can't remember how many schools.
Around 92 to 93.
Yeah, there's and then I can't remember how many districts actually. Look at that. So let's go ahead, and when you check this out, we've got basically, here's the updated adequacy standards. Talks about 25 students per half court, and any space that has a credit earning classes delivered within those rooms drive out capacity. Assumptions, we made a few assumptions here. These are only assumptions. Basically a half court, we just took a standard high school basketball court, competition court. It was 8,400 divided in half. And that's only the court itself, and that's 4,200 square feet. If you divide 25 students into a half court, it'd be 168 square feet per student. We're not saying this is the only way to figure it. We're just made some assumptions and some kind of a helpful guide. So based on basically the adequacy standards and potentially some assumptions, you're basically then to go through here, and for instance at Whiting High School, we have 44 students in that school. We have a gymnasium space, classroom space, room 118. Here's the square footage, and our capacity, our standard capacity methodology drove out to 12 students. And so let's let Stan take over this for a moment. I was envisioning them potentially looking at this, Stan, and then coming up from a instructional point of view what they believe. Do you want them to kind of take a shot at this and then we confirm it, or do you want to talk it straight up from the very
let's talk
beginning?
about it a little bit. You know, this was part of adequacy standards. If you look at our capacity methodology, we've looked at various ways to calculate these gyms. At the elementary level, gymnasiums do not calculate capacity, so we're really not worried about that. Whatever the size of gym is, because it's not counting any capacity toward that school per our methodology. When we get to the secondary schools that weren't built under our current standards, there's various schools out there that have large gymnasiums, and it really, if we run it just on a square footage methodology, it really doesn't capture the actual amount of students that can be in that gym, 7 periods a day or 8 periods a day. So what we're looking at is some type of looking at maybe how many teachers that the block grant funds for that school for PE, what the available square footage is, what the capacity of that school classrooms are without the gym, and coming up with a reasonable amount of children that are a reasonable amount of students that gym can be counted capacity. Like I say, a lot of schools out there were built under not our current standards. So the gymnasiums, I think about Weston 1, I think about some of the smaller schools with large gymnasiums, and it really doesn't, if we run it on a pure square footage, some of the gyms will hold the whole capacity of the school, and or close to it, and it was just not a fair methodology. So during adequacy standards, we all kind of agreed to look at these individually. So when we come to facility planning, we will be talking about a methodology to calculate that and what is fair for those gymnasiums on a period-by-period basis.
So I'll open up for any questions. Please raise your hand on the dashboard, and I will unmute you and entertain any questions. Jeff, go ahead. Jeff, can you hear me? Go ahead.
We got something. Does he have his muted? See.
Yeah.
Superintendent Newton, do you have your microphone muted, or we can't hear anything? You have to click on his hand.
Mm-mm. Jeff, you want to say something? And Ed Getz. Yeah. The problem is it doesn't unmute all. So you have to do them individually.
Hello?
So Jeff and Ed, I think you guys had some questions.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm just not clear as to what you're looking for us to put in there for our projection for a capacity like at Rock River. Are you saying that you might believe that we can only put 30 kids into the gym, so we just try to put that number in there, or is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
We're having some problems. When I look at Rock River, I look at an enrollment at Rock River of 83 students with our current methodology driving a restricted capacity in that gym of 39 students. And what we're looking for is that a realistic number of students that can be put in that gym on a period-by-period basis. It looks a little bit high to me, as it's about 50% of the students of that school. And so, you know, I don't know what Rock River is allocated out of the block grant for a PE teacher, maybe one, or I don't know if it's two. If it's two, maybe 39 is realistic. But if it's one, it's something that we want to talk about. And what I want to get to on these secondary schools with large spaces like this, and is a realistic capacity for that gymnasium. And you know, obviously, like I say, if you're funded for one PE teacher, you got 83 students in that school. Is that fair to count that gym a capacity of 39? I mean, is that how many students that are going to be in there? I would not think so. So I'm still working some things up, but you know, I want to hear from the districts as to their rationale for a capacity in those gyms and what's fair there. That's a school of 54,969 square feet with 83 students in it. So that's kind of where we're going with this capacity. There's 92, I believe 92 separate buildings that we're going to look at, and you know, we're going to determine a capacity so it's fair across the state of those gyms.
So Stan, just to clarify then, would it be okay for the district to say, okay, so
Yeah.
we only have a single teacher,
Yeah.
our average class size is 15, and so we're going to present 15 as a proposed, okay. So you guys can go ahead and fill this out, and as you propose based on maybe your block grant, a number of teachers you have, maybe those circumstances, present something and then come back to us and we'll have a discussion. You'll say, hey, we put 15 here and this is why. We have a single teacher, they come 3 days a week, and our average class size is around 15, you know, or maybe that's our largest size. So that's basically our small school adjusted capacity recommendation. We'll talk it over and we'll come to a conclusion and move on. So we are having a little few audio feedbacks and stuff, but hopefully that, anybody else raise a hand, I'll try to unmute you.
You know, if people have questions about this too, I mean, give me a call and we can talk about it individually. I know, you know, there's the bigger districts with the bigger schools, inadequacy standards, the consensus was 25 students per half court. We're just kind of looking at these smaller secondary enrollment with large gyms, and because that sometimes doesn't work. Some of our secondary schools might have you know, 2 or 3 full basketball courts, and if we just run it based on the larger schools, you know, that could be 150 students, and we're just looking at a fair methodology for those schools that were built not under our current standards.
The next thing we're going to move on to then are middle school utilization rates. This is also in the template here on that less than 300 student spreadsheet. You would check that out, fill it in, check it back in. On this one, down below, you only work with the template itself. And of course, I put these dates here so that as you work through, maybe it'll take you a week or two to get through all of these. You can just put a date, you know, I got this on the 22nd, and it's more of just a self-monitoring for you as you go along. Got that on the 13th, so just hit those dates. Those are really for your help. The new adequacy standards also state that middle school utilization rates range from 75 to 85% to create lower and upper bounds to capacity. So down below here, then, as we address these middle school utilization rates, you have some basically some check boxes to check. You can either say all grade levels are inclusive of building-wide scheduling and within our middle school. Well, if that's the case, you're just doing it like you would a junior high or a high school. You've got building-wide scheduling, everybody's switching classes, then it's an 85% utilization rate. However, if your sixth grade operates as a separate academy within the middle school, then what we want you to do is fill the table in below. I've kind of made some adjustments to this spreadsheet, so it's kind of goofed up my my look here just a little bit. But at any rate, so what you would do then is we need you to provide, first of all, if you are operating an academy within your middle school, then we don't need 30 pages of documentation. What we want you to do is basically take the key summary. Let's say, and I'm just throwing it out, let's say that a certain portion of your building is individualized for sixth grade academy, and then you would kind of work on that portion that isn't part of the overall building schedule. I'm going to let Stan come in on this as well.
Yeah, during our adequacy standard review, we had a lot of conversation about middle schools and districts, how they deliver that education at the sixth grade level, and didn't feel comfortable with an 85% utilization when the sixth grade was involved. And I'll give you an example of kind of what we heard a little bit. In some districts, when say, for example, they have a 6-8, they might take a set block of classrooms and actually the sixth graders for a half a day would be in that block of classrooms, and then take the second half of the day and be out within the 7 and 8 classrooms that are available, and not say it's a block of 4 classrooms. Those 4 classrooms would not be used the rest of that day, and that they were designated for the sixth grade academies only. So when you look at that school, there might be 4 classrooms or whatever it is, so depending on the size of the districts, that really are not available the whole day for use of the rest of the students in the 7 and 8. Now, if the sixth grade, actually the delivery of education is the same for the 6-8, then those classrooms could be used. So we want to be fair with, as our statutes talk about, delivery of education. If the delivery of education to the sixth graders are different than the 7 and 8s in the middle school, and some of those classrooms are just designated as sixth grade classrooms, then that utilization is going to be less. Now, when we talked inadequacy standards on the range of 75 to 85%, the group felt that the 75% would be the lower quartile, and the 85% would be if that sixth grade was fully integrated into that middle school.
So if that's the case, then you would check this. You'd put your school name, AIM property number, and we'll show you how to find that here in just a moment. And then would you like them to?
Close utilization.
Okay, good. So go ahead and propose a utilization rate. Provide us like a one-page or a half-page document, just and send that over to Tony, and he'd be more than happy to upload that in your facility plan. But let's make sure that that documentation has been sent to him.
I think we can objectively calculate that in looking at, if we're taking, say for example, we've got a 16-room school and 3 of those rooms are designated toward the 6th grade, and we only use those a half a day and our utilization is 85%, I think we can come to an objective calculation on not using those rooms for those second half of those, depending on how your delivery is, those 3 rooms, we can objectively come to some type of utilization between 75 and 85.
So one of the things you can do is we keep talking about these things and just make sure.
One other thing that I would like to bring forward thinking about adequacy standards. One of the things in adequacy standards that we designated is you guys, you know, are required to, as we don't know your delivery of education, you know, we want that documentation from you as to how many rooms are being used and your calculation on that utilization between 75 and 85, because we are not, you know, we don't know exactly how you're delivering that education. It might be sixth graders, you know, they're in there for if you have 8 periods, they're in there for 6 periods, and then those aren't used for 2. So we're asking the districts to bring the documentation as to how the delivery of that 6th grade is in those middle schools, and come forward with a recommended utilization between 75 and 85.
Any hands raised on your dashboard? I'll unmute you and you may talk if there's any additional questions on the middle school utilization rates. Okay, Marcy Cates. Marcy, we do not have, it looks like, yeah, it looks like you're muted or didn't enter an audio pin sent. So unfortunately, there is also a chat portion of this. Would you like to type in a question on chat right below that on your dashboard?
Or you can give me a call.
Or you can give Stanley a call later on. So also, just let you know on chat down below, you can do questions or chat down below. You can type in those questions, chat. We'll check that on a regular basis. So let's go right here.
Yes.
Okay, is a 5-6 in elementary?
Yes.
Thank you. So we're really talking about 6 through 8. So someone is starting to use your questions down below on your screen. Appreciate that. Here comes another one. Thank you, Marcy. Is anything done differently when 6th grade is configured into the elementary classification?
No, it's considered an elementary 100%. I mean, your 100% utilization, but we're not counting I mean, we're only counting the home rooms in that. That's why it's 100% utilization.
In the elementary.
Right. So that's 6th grade. If there's a 6th grade in the elementary, that room would be designated to that 6th grade, and
it's dedicated. It's 100%.
The whole day. So that's why we have 100% capacity.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go on and just go ahead and use your dashboard and ask those questions. Our audio is going to be a challenge today, unfortunately, but we'll continue on with questions on your dashboard. All right, made some notes there, just pretend notes. Property profile for a second. So in the AIM database, on your work desk, down here, property profile by district. On mine, it's the 3rd one up. And you can actually, let's say, back to Albany or something like that, statuses, let's say all statuses, all types, all classes. Then I can actually, and then leased or not leased, owned. You can actually go in there and bring up on your property profiles all your buildings. And then this will show all of them, and if you want to go into your property number, you can go in. You can look at specifics down through the view menu. You can look at your extra description, maybe your square footages, whatever it is. So one thing we want you to do on a regular basis, and if you've been in your district for any significant amount of time, you know when there are changes that should be reported and when not. We do go around the state during the condition assessments. We've verified your square footages. Those are pretty well set. But if you have maybe a name change or something to that effect, then we'll go ahead and have you run this report, and you can look at update your information.
You know, what's important, other things that are important here, I mean the configurations, make sure that the configurations are correct. Like I say, we have went through the square footages, and I think that was all verified. But you want to look at those again if if you have some minor additions or you know, a lot of times we've been in districts where they'll build a storage shed or they'll build a concession stand on their football field or something like that. And we want to get those buildings added and just review your property, make sure everything looks good. If you closed a building, let us know. Another thing is, one of the things that the SFD and that we go through in facility planning is when we build new buildings, the date that that building is open, because it makes a big difference for major maintenance. And you know, when we build new buildings, we have them in AIM, but it's just a matter of sometimes we don't have square footages. Sometimes we just want to make sure that we have the right status on those buildings, and because when we calculate major maintenance, we need that. Also, the property class. I mean, in major maintenance, there's office and there's educational, and we just want to make sure that all the configurations are right, so we get the proper major maintenance calculation and the square footages.
Let's say, Stan, that they have maybe they had a first grade in this room last year and it's turned to a second grade.
Yeah. That's a separate issue, but if we want to talk, I'll talk about that a little bit right now. During adequacy standards, one of the things that we did do was the group felt that the delivery of the first grade education was more similar to a kindergarten than it was a second or third grade. So one of the things in the adequacy standards we talked about was allocating 50 square feet per student, not only at the kindergarten but at the first grade level. We did an analysis when we originally did the location information. We basically broke out a kindergarten and then consolidated the 1 through 3 classrooms. We've identified all those classrooms. There's 1,275 1 through 3 classrooms across the state. Part of the assessment, the security assessment that FEA is doing, we had an alternate on there to identify and break those classrooms out as whether they're first, second, or third grade. That's going to be a part of their contract, separate from the security assessments. That I've been working with Bill Small on that a little bit with FEA, and that will become a part of the interview that form that they send out, and you'll have the ability. It'll have the room numbers on it, and you'll have the ability to say, okay, this room number is a first, this one's a second, this one's a third, and then we'll have a more comprehensive information within our database, and we'll adjust our capacity methodology to reflect that 50 square foot, cap of 16 at the first grade level. And I kind of want to get into this just a little bit and touch on it, and there'll be more on this in the future. I know that locations within schools change, and there might be a first grade this year and a sixth grade next year, or a fourth grade, and then it turns into a kindergarten because of the capacities of your schools. One of the things we're engaged in right now with a company called AIMCAD is bringing all of our location drawings that FEA did within AIMCAD, they call it. So once we have that, all of our location square footage will be tied to those drawings. And probably next year's facility planning, we're going to go in and really do a good update of changes in those rooms and changes in type and classification of rooms. So that's going to be coming up, and but I'd like to we'll do some training on that and how to look at that. There's a location report on AIM that you can quickly go through and see what room use and types have changed. But that's coming in the future as far as those locations go. Is there a question?
I was looking. I think we're okay. All right. So let's go on. It's so hard to see that. Okay, so that's property profiles. Once you've updated those, complete updated forms have been sent to Tony, johnmina2@wyo.gov. So on our website, let me show you just a. Oh no, what happened there? I think we lost him.
Did we lose everybody?
No, just that early closed.
So on our website then, on School Facilities Department, we've got a couple things here under the AIM portion. There are directions here. Is this the one right here?
Where's your planned work order?
Yeah, where's your actual instructions?
Yeah, that one up there.
Right there. So as you put in planned work orders, if you haven't done that in the past, you're new to the state or new to your job, this will give you a step-by-step process by which to do planned work orders. Everything on your vision that you would eventually want to spend money on or get money for needs to be in the form of a planned work order. The other thing is under resources, these miscellaneous forms are a really important part. We've basically taken, we had multiple forms and we've kind of updated them. The annual property lease notification, we'll be talking about that in a minute. This replaces Form 703. And then we have an AIM. We were just talking about updating your property profiles. You can update your land, your deeds, stuff like that. AIM, the AIM database update request form. Michael Pockle here has redone this, did a great job replacing 705, 706, 708. This is now your form that you can send in to Tony for updates in the AIM database. We also have a local enhancements acknowledgement agreement form here. Those of you who have had that goes through the commission first. Then we put it back into, after the commission meeting. Based on those notes, we bring that into our AIM database. We'll be talking about that in just a moment. Let's see here. Okay, so when you get that complete, you can type notes, do whatever, or maybe property profiles are up to date, no changes are needed. Check that and move on. Building leases, we were talking about the AIM database. I don't know what happened to that. And when you're down in property profile by district, and let's go back to Albany 1, all statuses, all types. Right down here on the bottom one, all these are there. Your owned or leased properties. So when you want to look at your leased properties, and this is what we'll do, when you 2 weeks prior, when all your documents and all your facility plan is due and ready and needed to be ready, Tony's going to go in here and he's going to look at this leased report on buildings, and we can see that there are basically, this is the same building. It looks like maybe 2 modulars, I'm sure. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buildings with leases here, and basically then these are the ones that we want you to fill out. So in your lease, so for Albany 1 then, so he does have 6 of them. He would list those 6 here. If you need more spaces, no problem. This is a really easy form. All you got to do is right click and insert some additional, maybe below or something like that, additional lines. You can add more. But enter your building name, the property number. We just showed you that right here. You have property numbers. And again, this is the bird's eye view of your facility planning. And then the square footage lease. Sometimes it's maybe a BOCES program, maybe it's a community college, who knows.
Or it might be a program that's not approved.
Not approved, that's right. And so so go ahead and say, yes, this is how many square feet out of the building, maybe it's the whole building. And if there's an approved program in there, maybe there isn't, you can note it here. We lease it, but it's not an approved program. Great. If it is an approved program, you know, maybe you could say LCCC or BOCES or whatever you want to do there. But just kind of give a very hope I spelled that right, go ahead and give a very short descriptor of your lease. So all your leases will be represented here. They will be visual, and then you will have sent in basically this year's forms and signed leases. Now, what we mean by this year's forms is basically for this this calendar year for school, or this year for school. So in other words, the majority of you, right, you probably obtained those official leases for this year, this whole year, and you got them back in August or back in July. Those are the ones we're talking about. But whatever the case is, you should have an updated lease. The other thing that we want to make sure that you provide as well is the signed lease itself. And I want to emphasize signed. We do have leases in there that we see a lease, but there's no signature on it. There's no proof signature. And I guess what I'm trying to say is the contractual obligation between the district and the entity. That's what I was referring to on the signed lease, not the actual form itself, but the signed lease. So we need those actual binding documents in here signed by the district, by the person who's leasing, or something like that to you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and look at some questions here, and let me kind of reduce that a little. Sorry, Kim, I kind of just saw your message there that you can't see the whole screen. I've kind of reduced it just a little bit. Hopefully that'll help. So any other questions? Looking for questions here. I don't see any other new questions at this point with regard to what we've covered.
Look at their hands.
Let's see here, attendees. Don't see any hand. There is Marcy Kate's hand raised, but again, we can't get the audio on her. Thank you, Marcy. All right, I don't see any other hands raised or any other questions at this moment. Okay, let's talk about enhancements next. Whoops. So enhancements, basically, we told you, it's not something that just automatically pops up in the AIM database. I showed you on the SFD website where there's an enhancement acknowledgement spreadsheet agreement. You guys work with your project managers, work through what an enhancement may be. You get it ready, you present it to the commission, it's acknowledged by the commission, or if it has to do with percentages of responsibility for splitting funds and stuff, it's actually an agreement that comes out of that acknowledgement. And so you guys present that, and then once it's approved or acknowledged, agreed to by the commission, then it basically then is put in here by Tony. It comes back. We enter those into the AIM database. So if you have any enhancements whatsoever, you would say, yes, enhancements in AIM are up to date. And so all you have to do in the AIM database, let me go back to where I need to, is we actually have a report here on enhancements, district enhancements. Now, the notes are running notes. They're back dated earlier and later, and so and I'm not quite sure, Stan, if the upper ones are probably the most recent. I would assume, in the lower ones. But anyway, there are, and we've done this with Laramie 1 and stuff, but the upper notes are the most current ones. For instance, they have a specific enhancement. Here are the notes related to that: enhanced square feet, funding source, estimated cost. One of the things we ask you each year, and that we need to do, and I'll ask Michael Pockle to follow up on you as he follows up on this, on these enhancements, is if you have an estimated cost, and in this case it's not actualized yet or realized yet because Laramie High School is under construction, but if you've completed a project, then we do want to take the estimated cost to an actual enhancement expenditure. And we would get rid of the estimated cost and then replace it with the actual expenditure itself. So those are one of the things that we want to update because we are required from time to time to provide this information to the legislature.
As part of our adequacy standards.
So back to the template, tracks and deeds, same thing. All districts' tracks and deeds are updated. Of course, we want to see yes. Updated forms, and maybe it's yes and there are no updated forms, that's fine. But if it's yes, please check it. If there's updated forms, send it in to Tony in order to get that done. The tracks.
Let's go out to the, okay. good.
Yeah, I wanted to show you tracts and deeds right here at bottom. There are some quite a few reports here, but the tracts and deeds report. So, and I'm just running the same flavor for Albany. Show deed detail. You could do that, and all active properties. Okay, so let's run that. It shows all his properties. It shows you can kind of the deeds or whatever else that's tied to this. You can actually click on those, and it would show you a detail of what that would be. You can view documents as well. If there's a document there, you can actually view that, and it'll show you the deed. I'm probably getting a little bit too detailed here, but here's the deed that would be in there. So yes, as you buy new property, we want probably, what do we want all attached to these tracts and deeds, Stan?
Well, if we buy new property, usually if the SFD buys the property, we want a copy of the deed, a copy of the contract that purchased that land. Obviously, we would probably have that on the actual, not on the deed, but on the actual tract. Acreage is very important, as that's WD uses that in their block grant formula. So just an update, and if you go out to that tracts and deeds report, Troy,
Yes, sir.
we can kind of take a look at it. You can just say yes, show deed detail. You can either take it this way where it doesn't show the deed detail and it'll give you the total acreages. I think it's important by school to review that. We try to pick everything up every year. We've got that $2 million adjacent land fund that's out there, and we try to look at that. And we have undeveloped and developed. Our definition of that is if it has infrastructure to it, it's a developed piece. Obviously, if it has a building on it, it's developed. If it's not, it's undeveloped land in our database. Still reported to WDE, so we just want to make sure we got the right acreages every year. We don't change them unless we have a purchase. If the district buys some land outside of the SFD, we also want that reported on there too.
So down here, Ed Getz has a question. What do we need to fill out to update a tract, for example, the sale of Nellie Isles?
Well, we have our form, right, in AIM.
Yes. So right here in the school facilities website, under, again, resources, we have a miscellaneous forms. And under that miscellaneous forms is this AIM update request form. And within that form, then, we do have multiple things. This is filled out. You put your district name, the property number, the type of property it is, whatever it may be, a common name or street address. And then we have different things you can fill out. So this would be filled out on every one. Then you would say, okay, so we'd actually, I don't have this checked out, so it's not fully functional, but update existing information in AIM. So maybe you have just some minor changes you need to do. Maybe you're adding a new property in the inventory. So you'd say the date of purchase, and of course it had to have gone through the commission for approval. And then deed in name, yes or no. Description of maybe it's land, maybe it's a building. Date completed, gross square footage, that kind of stuff. Disposed property, right here is where I think Ed's talking about dispose of property, change in ownership or demolition. Here's basically legal description if different from AIM database data. Is it developed or undeveloped? You select that. Current use of it.
No buildings on it. You don't have to worry about it.
Yep. So basically, you just go through this, fill this portion out on disposition. You send it in, and then Tony, you'd send it in to Tony. Tony looks it over, and if there's some more information, he's going to check this. Say, hey, I need some more information from the district in order to before I have basically Stan is going to be reviewing these as they come in, and he's going to be put a check mark here when he's reviewed and approved it, and then it would come off of your inventory.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's go back out to the tract report because we get some questions on this.
Oh, sometimes I replace my.
If you look there, obviously our database doesn't wipe out all the records that relate to that tract of land. So when it says active, yes or no, and Ed, if you're talking about Nellie Isles, the disposition of that, we would go back into Nellie Isles and make that inactive. So that would not show up on your property report.
I'm not going to do it. I'm just showing. That would be where, right? No,
No, up above.
right there.
Yeah. So we would make it not
That would be
active, and
no.
that would come out of the acreage of your report.
No, I think we're good. I'll catch up to the other ones later.
Okay.
I think they were older ones when we were having. All right, so let's go back. This is a longer training. We thank you for your endurance, but it's very important we move through this, and I think that this is probably the most complete facility planning we've ever done. We'll do with you up to this point, and we're pretty excited just about the detail that you can get into and we can get into. The enrollment projections and capacity on each of your facility plans. Let me go back to that. If you go back into your facility plan, we'll go into all, whoops, that was 2011. We don't want to do that. And I don't know Tony. Tony's working on enrollment projections. He's done. So all your enrollment projections are done. In some cases, we have as many as 3 enrollment projections, sometimes more. Most districts have a single one. But anyway, in your facility plan, we have enrollment projections. Maybe some of you have never seen an enrollment projection. It's based on an approved commission and select committee methodology through the legislature. Let me reduce that so everybody can kind of see it. Basically, the first page, every once in a while we may have panes frozen. And if so, you can go and unfreeze them. But if you're only seeing the top part and you're not seeing the data, I've always provided the WDE data for you guys so that you can check our math, make sure everything looks good. Everything, here's a 2846, 2846, that's in 1995 and so on. So we're very transparent on this. But this is the first page of data. Then basically we have, sometimes I'll do a separate capacity analysis because sometime during the year we've been working with the district. You'll find that. And then our approved methodology is using 10-year trailing data. So we would go back 10 years, use this data. It generates, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong place. It's this 10 years of trailing data. We wouldn't take the 2004 and before, even though it's represented here, and it would go out and project through a specific mathematical computation. In this case, we're working with this district, and we're looking at K-8 and some target dates of potential capacity issues. Down below, you do have a graph as well, a line graph showing those. So basically, this is how we look at your capacity out in the future, see where it's going to be, and then if that capacity is coming up and we recognize and you recognize that it's an issue, then this is the methodology that helps us drive out, you know, where could we be if these trends continue as they do, when would we have to act in order to remedy this capacity issue at some point. Maybe there's steps along the way. So a lot of times we have planning studies to help define that. So in this, there's quite a bit here, and so we want to walk through it. Is your district experiencing capacity issues? Yes or no? If yes, then tell us about the cause of growth. What's your perception? Why are you growing? This is a perception question. And so maybe you can give us some information there. Maybe you have hard fact data, and you can always send that to Tony and include it. Maybe you've done an internal analysis through some consultant on birth rates. Who knows? But you can include that and say, hey, by the way, we've also attached some supporting documents. And I probably could have asked this differently, but how are you experiencing the capacity issues? So in other words, yes, we have a capacity concern. This is what's causing it, we think. then tell us the symptoms of your capacity issues. Man, you know, I mean, obviously we're struggling like crazy at the elementary. We don't have enough rooms. We've got these specials we have to do for SPED, whatever. So tell your story here. And by the way, I kind of made these so they're self-expanding. So they'll just open up more and more lines as you go. This will self-expand as many lines as you want. So tell your story. Be specific, but yet don't be intimidated that these are smaller boxes in which to enter information, because it will expand. So let's talk about potential remedies. We want to give you a voice. You know, do you see maybe an addition to a school? Maybe you see an addition and a renovation, and we think that, you know, X schools, whatever, 2 schools could be renovated and 1 needs to be added to. Or maybe we need to renovate and add to 1 in such a way that we address these capacity issues. Tell your story here. Maybe it's neither of those. Maybe the fact is you need a new building. And if you think you need a new building, and do you already have land to build on? Tell us yes or no. Or you need land. If that's the case, check that, and then type any additional notes.
You know, one of the things that we're required to do is look at non-construction alternatives. So, I mean, if you could solve your capacity issue with maybe using a building that's existing, or maybe a configuration change, also look at that. Like I say, per the statutes, we are required to look at all alternatives, including non-construction, and bring it in front of the commission. So if capacity issues can be solved by configuration changes that you see, we want to look at that too.
And I probably should have put that in there. I did miss it before the due date, so we'll have that next year. Thanks, Stan, for bringing that up.
If there's any questions.
Okay. And the other thing, we're going to look at for questions here in just a moment. The other thing that we recognize statewide is there is some pressure on the special ed delivery within districts. So what we've done this year is we've taken the WDE provided data for the last 3 years, 13, 14, 12, 13, and back to 11, 12. And so, for instance, in Albany, you know, you guys were at 14.1% of your student population was special ed in this year, 11, 12. And then you went to 14.2, and now you've dropped down to 12.7. So we can also see 3 years of trending. The important thing here basically is what I said is if capacity issues are related to special education, reference the below chart for percentages that are above the state average for each school year. We have provided 3 years of data to observe trends. So the state averages are on bottom. This year was 14.3, 14.0, and 13.9. So you can actually take your district, compare it to the state average, and then if you're experiencing issues related specifically to capacity with regard to SPED, you can also address that within your district portion here. I think that was it before we go on to questions. I'm going to look for questions here. Okay. Don't know what that's about. Okay, so I think we're all caught up on questions. I don't see any additional questions here. I don't see any. We've tried to do the raise hands portion of this webinar, and there's Ed Getz. You do have a raised hand. Hopefully we addressed what your needs. I'm going to try this one more time, Ed. I did unmute you. If you're unmuted, did you want to ask an additional question?
Might be muted on his end.
Could be.
Show a clear slash through it if he's muted his own microphone.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I don't think I see any additional questions. So we'll go on. District modulars. You know, this is kind of one of those difficult ones that we deal with, districts and the SFD every year. So we've asked you basically 2 questions here on district modulars. List any modulars that the district is anticipating removing in the near future. So tell us the school name, the specific property number and aim. Do you own it, or does the state own it, I should say, or are we leasing it? And then mode of disposal. Do you anticipate selling it, demolishing it, or donating it? And then tell us anticipated disposal date. When would you anticipate getting rid of that? Maybe it's the summer of 2015. Square footage of that modular, and then the number of classrooms within it. And what we're going to do here is this is going to provide us, those who want to anticipate and are anticipating getting rid of them, this one is going to inform us of those above. So list any modulars that the district anticipates needing in the near future. So we can go from district plan to district plan, and we can start matching these up. We want to get rid of these, or we anticipate, or we have a plan to get rid of these because we have a remedy, or we don't need it any longer with those who need it. So at what school do you need it? And then proposed use. Do you need a 5th grade classroom, a music, or what is the deal that you need the modular? Number of modulars being requested. Tell us how many, 1 or 2 or 3. Total number of classrooms needed. So maybe we need one modular with 2 classrooms, maybe it's one modular with 1 classroom. And then anticipated date you need it, and then the planned work order. Obviously, if you have to always ask. And without planned work orders, it doesn't work. So, one of the things that Michael will be doing as he goes through this is whenever you list a need like this, he's going to be double checking the AIM property numbers, make sure we have the right numbers, the right descriptors, and then make sure that you have a planned work order in there that represents your request. We want a modular such and such school, and make sure it's attached to the right property. District notes, SFD notes. With that, Arlene, and I think that's it for the modulars. We'll go to land next. Are there any questions with regard to modulars? No questions? Good. Okay, I don't see any questions, so we'll move on to land. So land is, we basically have 3 things, I believe, on this. Number 1 is we still have a land opportunity fund. And that was at $2 million. Is it still at $2 million?
$2 million.
Adjacent? So we still have a total of $2 million for adjacent land. We basically identified as opportunities adjacent to existing sites. So maybe you need more parking. Maybe you have a very confined neighborhood, and there's a house that opens up across the street, and they want to sell, and you take the advantage of that. So this is for those kind of adjacency type of opportunities to existing sites. Does your district foresee a possible purchase of land using this opportunity fund, yes or no? If it is yes, then tell your story. What school or building name? Maybe it's an ancillary building. The reason for your purchasing the land. What is your reason? Very brief. You need a planned work order in there. And maybe potentially, I don't know, usually not an estimated cost, we don't know usually, but sometimes maybe you know the market value of that as potential.
Well, we would want an estimated cost, even if it's a guess. You know, one of the things that we've used this for, and I believe the intent of this opportunity fund were for districts that had school buildings on tracts of land that didn't meet our guidelines. For example, if our minimum guideline in an elementary is 4 acres, and if there was a district out there that was realizing problems with parking or had under 4 acres, and something came available adjacent to that would remedy an issue, you know, they would put in a planned work order, and each one of these would have to come to the commission individually for approval, and we've used it pretty well across the state. We had $2 million allocated to us in the last biennium, and used all of that. And but it's pretty much for opportunities to remedy problems on schools that are having issues because the tract is too small, and they have an opportunity to remedy that.
And then, of course, your proposed date of purchase. So this is a portion of the land that we're going to ask you about. The other one is, do you have appropriated funds for land that have not been expended? And if so, what is the AIM project number? Because you do have a potentially, maybe sometimes we have these in pools. Last time we had it in a pool. So we'll identify, and we'll certainly help you identify that pool of money that it would come out of. The planned work order, of course, and AIM will confirm, and then the anticipated date of purchase. So these will all be filled out, and then we'll have a discussion on this. Hey, district, where are you at? We've got the money. We're waiting. Where are you at? How can we assist you? from the state perspective. And then notes, if any. Don't feel like you have to type notes, but if you have notes and you want them represented, please do so. Okay, I don't see any questions at this point, so we'll move on to school and ancillary buildings. Does your district foresee a need to purchase land to address capacity, replace school for an ancillary or for an ancillary building, yes or no? And then basically want you to know, let's say that you're experiencing capacity issues and you believe you need a new elementary. Okay, well, it's a K-5. We think it's going to be 364 students is what we would like to see. And then we've given you basically, some of you, again, don't have a lot of background in our state, but here's basically our standards by which we usually look for, standards by which we size property. So an elementary is 4 acres plus an acre for every 100 students above that. So obviously you have 200 students or you want 360 some, it'd be 3.6 on top of your 4, you've got 7.6 acres. And we just want you to be aware of the fact that you need to be looking at minimum for that. We'd probably be wanting you to look more like around a 10-acre site or something like that, because potential addition down the road. A reason, is it a capacity issue you're asking for money for land or replacement or an ancillary building? And then obviously your planned work order. Our team will always check the planned work orders, make sure they're correct and look good. District notes, SFD notes. I'm looking at questions on your dashboard. I don't see any at this point, so I'll go on. Building condition would be the next thing we do. And I think this is a really important, please read this as I do. This is really important. We're at a transition state within the state of Wyoming. And so we just wrote here, as a whole, schools and district support buildings within Wyoming have been brought up to a condition that is as good, if not better, than any other state within the nation. We know that we've spent, what is it, 3.7, 3.8 trillion or billion dollars. So we're looking really good, I think, from a condition point of view as compared to most states in the nation. A few buildings remain that are above an FCI score of 0.33 that are targeted to be remedied as funds become available.
And, you know, there's no written rule on that 0.33. That's just kind of what we look at. I mean, if those buildings above a 0.33 can be remedied through major maintenance, you know, we're looking at that funding source too to remedy them. It doesn't guarantee any funding that we're going to bring forward because it's above a 0.33. What we're looking at is remedies for that. You can see some of them in planning there, and it doesn't automatically guarantee any funding. That's just kind of the baseline right now, unwritten baseline that we look at. We also look at what's driving that 0.33. I mean, is it exterior doors and windows and a roof that we can repair and it will bring it under a 0.33? If that's the case, you know, that's kind of a remedy we're looking at.
So basically, I think the important thing here too is capitalization. I mean, we know this if you've been following the legislature, the JAC, Director Panos' comments to the Commission. Capitalization is nearing completion, and asset preservation will become the predominant focus in the future. And that's why we have a white paper out eventually on component versus major maintenance projects and how all that looks in spending and maintaining these assets that we have on the ground. Of course, we still have certainly when we're talking about this, and we still have capacity issues as well. So this represents those buildings that are still above the 0.33 and provide updates. So last year we kind of listed this without this last column. This year we have. We're giving you a funding status. So for instance, Riverside High School here, it's got construction funds. And Red Creek Elementary School, which is a rural school near Casper, has construction funds. This one here, we put an asterisk, like for planning, Jeffrey City, in the present tense supplemental budget. If it has an asterisk, it's been funded there. So some have been already, for the most part, fully funded in construction. Some are being asked for in planning. In the next coming up one are design. Some of them have design funds but have yet to be received any request for construction. We just wanted to give you a context. If you have something on here and you're looking at whatever school, Hobbs Elementary School, Laramie 1, we want you also to see what's above it as well as below it. And these are a lot of times dependent on factors such as, we'd love to say we move down through, we do. We work with this needs index list, and some districts are ready to go before others, and so they come before others simply because they're ready to fly, and we have the money within the budget to do that. So that's kind of what we do. The district notes, SFD notes, please feel free to that. Notice that these were educational buildings, and here's the ones above 0.33. Transportation buildings above a 0.33 are in this list. Here are the funding statuses. And then administration buildings. We do have one administration building right now that is above a 0.33, and that is in Crook County in Sundance, and we're in the middle of a planning study right now that the district is using this major maintenance money to complete. So let me go back to any questions on the dashboard, and I do not see any. The other thing then is component level requests. I think this is a real important one we need to talk about today because component level requests are an important part of maybe a building as a whole isn't being driven because of capacity or condition, but there are components within it that need to be addressed, but you don't have enough major maintenance money in order to fund it. So the first important thing to know about component level requests is basically that they meet the major maintenance definition. I put the major maintenance definition right down here out of the state statute. So a component level request needs to meet this definition. So even if you have a lot of times you say, hey, I have a component level request in there, I've had it in there for 3 years, it hasn't been funded yet. We understand that. We want you to list all of your component level requests from the past if they have not been funded. And then if you have new ones, add those to the list. The planned work order number, we're going to be looking through these quite carefully with you and hopefully helping you on this. We're going to ask you to fill this out. Any component level requests you have, we want it here. We are not including security requests within this table.
We'll talk about those down below.
Yep. So requested amount, tell us how much transfer, so when you come up, we are asking you basically to do the requested amount, how much are you asking for? And then we want a line itemized, and we request this each year, a line itemized scope of services with cost estimate. It's done by a professional service provider. We have not defined professional service provider as only an architect, as only an engineer. There are special services out there, such as door hardware or whatever, that roofers, okay? So we get that. So it's a professional service provider. The important part is professional. And so a lot of times where we end up in problems in these component level requests is someone goes out and says, hey, they just grab someone or they make a guess as to the cost, and that really creates some hardships down the road, because then this thing, maybe it ends up getting funded and we don't have enough money for it, and so the project's on postpone. Maybe we didn't think about the fact that it needed design along with construction. And so one of the things that we have done this year, and that we're still about a week out for finalizing it, give or take, and I don't think we put that in their facility plan, your cost estimation sheet, but we have a new budget template that we have here that basically all cost estimates will be transferred from whatever budget sheets they have or estimate sheets that professionals have. They will be transferred into a standardized SFD budget spreadsheet. And so we're getting real close on that. We will provide that to you as quickly as we can as soon as we finalize that. We're waiting for just a few more numbers, and then we'll go from there. So we do have a cost estimate sheet that all scope of services need to be transferred into. And then one of the things, we can't mandate this, but we're certainly we highly value our project managers at School Facilities Department. They're very skillful, they know your districts, and they have tremendous knowledge. And so one of the things that we're encouraging you and the project managers both to do is to have them review your scope of services and cost estimate and project. So we want you to say yes. Who knows? Maybe it's Tanner Norton. And so one of the things we did within your facility plans is we have provided a regional work assignments sheet. So your district is basically covered by a specific project manager. That's way too large. So John Rexis has basically the Northwest, Lance Johnson down here, give or take, the Southwest. We've got Tanner Norton has the Northeast, and Michael Burnett basically has the Southeast. Now, in Natrona County, it's pretty well Paul Severson, who is a special project manager in our office. He has Natrona, and then Bob Herzog, he's got specific projects designated, special projects within these 4 regions. And maybe even Casper as well. So we provided this. You do need to know your project manager. If you don't know him, certainly give him a call and ask him to join you on this if possible. So we provided that, and we're encouraging you to review these. Maybe it's no. Maybe Tanner wasn't available, and that's fine too. But we want you to specifically say no. Tanner Norton's our project manager. He did not review this. We will provide this eventually. This will be provided in a master. I anticipate this being provided in a master spreadsheet to our component level every year around June-ish or so. We got all these requests. We have a component level executive committee represented by the districts and Stan and probably me at times, to review all of these requests and then prioritize them from 1 through whatever.
Well, and let's qualify that a little bit in that we're about ready to talk about the Select Committee and the legislature has been concerned with our component projects because of the amount of major maintenance that is allocated. And they requested us to have a consultant come in and look at our funding levels and our prioritization of component and how component level projects work with major maintenance. And so that could change the way we do things in the future, but we need to accumulate all these projects and so we can take a look at them if the process stays the same, or if it changes, we'll filter those projects through a recommendation.
Then to fill this out, in addition, each component level request, again, even if it's existing, been there for 2 or 3 years, we want you to update. You know, we've been going basically on a 4% inflation rate. Yeah. If you're more than a year or 2 out, you probably, at this point, I'd recommend adding 4%. Maybe you don't need to go back in, and you might want to look at your scope and review that and make sure it's clear and line itemized, and you have costs per line, and you've got a really good, solid scope, because that helps all of us. But we do want you to update your numbers. Maybe your scope looks great and your cost estimate looks great, but you're 2 or 3 years out, so add 4% compounded interest per year, and that's kind of what we're going to end up with as a new dollar amount. The reason for your request, is it a health issue? Is it a safety issue? We're not talking about security right here. Maybe it's a safety issue. Something related to a physical aspect of your building that it's not preventing people from entering or something. It's an actual safety concern. And then how much major maintenance is supplementing the project? And so maybe you have maybe you're asking for $100,000 here, and maybe you are supplementing it 25 grand here, something like that. But tell us, you know, again, these are projects that you don't have enough major maintenance to do it. We get that. But how much can you help assist this? We're here to, the component level request certainly is here to help you accomplish it, and if it's prioritized and funded through the legislature. So with each of these planned work orders that you have here, our staff will go through, and we want you to upload the following related documents: a professional line itemized scope of services and cost estimate, okay, and the SFD budget worksheet that I just showed you that we'll have done. Maybe we'll just upload this version for now for component level requests and roll with it. and probably that's what we'll do. But I'll find out today when maybe we can have that other one done and it'll be fully functional. But a lot of these projects are really dependent. They're maybe a renovation type of thing, and they aren't based on a per square foot brand new building cost as much as they are a specific renovation cost per unit or whatever it may be. So anyway, these two things need to be attached to each one. We're asking you to attach those as well. And then district or SFD comments. This is going to take a long time. Let's say that we schedule you. I didn't show you kind of our latest plan on scheduling, but let's say you're scheduled for May and you're a large district. These are the kind of things that you need to get on right away and be working months in advance. So please, it may look easy on a piece of paper, but it may take a lot of time in order for you to, and the more complete these are, the easier it is for our selection of which ones rank where or whatever, but clarification is always helpful.
Another concern of our select committee and of our commission is we've allocated quite a bit of money in component projects, and some of those component projects are the funding's still sitting out there and haven't been completed. So we're going to review the actual projects that are out there and have been appropriated by the legislature and are actually on budgeted to districts to see what the progress of those are. I know our commission select committee is always interested in, we have this component money and we've allocated it. Is it being used? Have they completed those projects? So we'll look at that too.
Okay, the next one we want to talk about is security level requests. Statewide security assessment will be completed on June 8th of this year, resulting in a list of projects of some type to be considered for future budget requests. Districts are not being asked at this time to submit security projects.
Let me. If you have a security project, that doesn't mean you cannot put it in AIM. If there's a need for a security issue, I mean, we're working diligently to try to get this assessment done. We have contracted with a consultant, and we've developed the methodology that was done 4 or 5 months ago with a separate consultant, and we're going to go out and do the assessments. The assessments will take place right now, scheduled March 15th through somewhere around the middle of May. But if you have a security project out there that's really concerning, I would submit it in AIM as a planned work order. And there's a separate section there that you can designate it as a security project in the work code. So this doesn't mean you to quit putting in security-related projects, but we're going to go through the assessment, and a lot of unknowns right now with that assessment, and we're just getting started into it. And that will, kind of look at that as driving the projects for the next budget. But if there's a major concern out there, obviously put it in your plans and make notes on it.
And then last of all, we always try to provide an area for unique issues, concerns, or ideas for both the SFD and the district. So if something above, we've tried to be just as complete as possible in this facility plan, but if something above was not addressed, please feel free, district, to type out whatever you need to here and express your ideas or concerns or anything you need to do here. So this is kind of just an additional area for anything else that might be on your mind. We already talked about the fact that, we had this at the very front about the fact that this is an opportunity for us to envision maybe the possibilities for the future, but we're not a legislature, we're not a governor, we're not a commission. We're the school facilities department, and so we're here to help you communicate your vision, and then certainly to apply the equitable processes statewide in order to fund projects. And then, of course, we're going to ask for eventually, when we're all done with this, some may be able to sign earlier than others within a day or a week of our facility plan meeting. We'll ask for the superintendent's signature, their printed name, and the date. and that will pretty well wrap up our final documentation for everything. So that's pretty well it. I see that a couple people are saying thank you for the webinar. Are there any other questions? We're looking on the dashboard. Are there any other questions we can ask or answer prior to us ending our meeting? So with that, I don't see any additional questions. We appreciate so much you attending this. We know that it was a fairly long webinar, but hopefully complete. Starting as, you're welcome, Michael. Starting as quickly as we can here, Michael Pockel will be calling those districts. There's one other thing, if I may say, hopefully not everybody jumped off there, but we do have a schedule. And let me share the schedule. I was going to do this at the front end of it, and I apologize for those who are still on. Basically, February, we've already scheduled meetings. So one of the challenges we've had in this agency is, just like you, it's really hard to fill our calendars up in months and months in advance and anticipate when to plan. So basically about 5 weeks before each one, we already have February scheduled. We started with some smaller districts we thought would be available, and they've agreed to join us in scheduling. We've got some proposed ones for March that come down here, and then we have proposed April and May. So about 5 weeks, so in other words, the end of January here, we will be calling you, Michael will be calling you, or Janet Garrison, and setting the March schedule up. So it's not going to, we're not asking you to call us. We will be calling you in advance and setting you up for a specific month. And so, and just to run down like March, you can kind of see the districts that we have in March that we anticipate scheduling. We have the April ones that we anticipate scheduling. And some of these we have ongoing planning studies, so we've tried to put them out in such a way that those planning studies are complete before we schedule their meeting. And then the 5 largest districts or 6 largest districts within the state are in May, and we will schedule you at the last week of March for your May meeting. So about 5 weeks in advance we'll be calling you and scheduling you. So with that, let me see if there's any other questions. You said you were scheduling different this year. What is the difference? Okay, I think I just explained that one. So I think we've answered all the questions. So appreciate your time. Thank you. We will be in contact with you very shortly for those who are meeting with us in February. Take care, and we will send a link out to this recording when it's uploaded. Thanks a lot, and we will talk to you later. Don't hesitate to call us if you have any additional questions. So I'll go ahead and end our time together, and appreciate your attendance at it. Thank you.